Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by Microphone Foam Tops. Do you run a podcast that maybe centers around football, baseball, basketball, maybe centers around the Bay Area? Funny, so do we. And do you maybe have a bunch of new equipment, like a new mic and some new, brand new sound system so that everything sounds crisp, tip-top? Maybe you do, so do we. Then what I suggest is having a microphone foam top. I don't even know what the hell that stupid thing is called. Why, you may ask? Well, I mean, maybe you record 3 podcasts in the middle of July and maybe the sound quality is horrific on all of them and you have to go on Facebook and ask your friends, what the hell's wrong with my sound equipment? How come I got all this brand new state-of-the-art equipment and nothing's working? And maybe someone says, hey, one of the things you should try is getting, one of the foam tops for the microphone. You're like, oh, crap, I should have got that foam top for the microphone because I sound horrible on this podcast right now. Maybe that happened to you. I'm not saying it's happened to us, but, it could have. We were gone for all of July. Anything could happen. Anyways, get one of those for your podcast. Available at Amazon. Now, before we get started, let me tell you guys where you can find us. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all under the moniker at the GoldCast. The only difference is Twitter is at the GoldCast _. Make sure to go on there, share, like, subscribe, join. We love comments. We get a lot of comments on YouTube, which is awesome. Thank you so much to all of our YouTube listeners for constantly staying active and giving us food for thought. But join, follow us. We'll follow you back. Share, like, subscribe at the GoldCast. All right, this is a impromptu surprise podcast because the big news come out last night. Kyrie Irving traded from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Boston Celtics in exchange for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, the Brooklyn Nets pick, and there was one other guy, but it doesn't even matter. Anyway, so we're going to talk about it right now. I've got Raymond on the line. He was traveling from an undisclosed traveling from San Francisco to an undisclosed location. We're going to get into it. GoldCast, here we go, baby.
San Francisco, are you ready? This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby, via satellite.
Ba-bam, cha-ching. So let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics.
Yeah. Cue the Vincent Price laugh of the Thriller song, because that's what this is about.
Oh man, I love it. There's so much happening in the East, so much turmoil, so much change, so much disruption. Now, having said that, this is a good trade. So Raymond, via satellite Raymond, the greatest finalist in the game, the greatest finalist in the Bay. Why don't you drop for us? Tell us what this trade was for, what happened, give us the lowdown.
Okay, so the main marbles, obviously, for those of you who are not living under a rock, is Kyrie Irving goes to the Boston Celtics and Isaiah Thomas goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That, in a nutshell, is the essential gist of the trade. Especially, and in fact, that's exactly and all it is for Boston's case. For Cleveland, however, they do get Jay Crowder, which is a good player off the bench. They do get Ant Zizic, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, who's an unproven center from Croatia. And they also get the Brooklyn Nets 2018 unprotected first-round pick. So you have 2 unproven dice roll, potentials there, but the real gem is obviously Isaiah Thomas, and also you get a good bench player from Jay Crowder. That's a really good pick because he's got double digits. He shoots the same field percentage as Kyrie Irving, although obviously he plays a significant less amount of time. He can shoot 3-pointers, so that's really good. Isaiah Thomas, on the other hand, he's the smallest point guard in the association at 5'9". He's also a recent two-time All-Star and had one of his most prolific years, statistically one of the best years in the history of the league, according to Bill Simmons. But then again, he's a Celtics fan, so who knows how much truth there is to that. But so he's a good player, although he hasn't been proven to be very durable throughout his career. He was injured in the playoffs, so I think there's some issues there. He's also 28 years old. He's just a couple years from the 30 mark, even though I know in the NBA guys typically last, pretty well into their 30s, but they do start to taper off in their 30s nonetheless, athletically. So, but I think I'm kind of with the notion that Boston kind of has the better end of this deal. What do you feel about it?
Ooh, you think Boston has the better deal? So let's talk about what I think this means for the Warriors, because that's going to answer that question. So let's rewind back to 2017, right? And the big conversation going into the finals. Obviously, if you're a Golden State fan, you know my epic arguments with Cavalier Chris. You can see those. You can go back a couple different ones. I'll pop that up here if you're on the YouTube. I'll pop up one of my episodes where I had an argument with Cavalier Chris, this diehard Cavaliers fan that I was having arguments with leading up into the finals. But the big concern going into the finals was Cleveland's ability to defensively match up with the Warriors. Nobody had any doubt about their offense. Their offense was ranked number 1. Their defense was ranked 27th. Now then you've got the Warriors on the flip side are ranked 3 and 3, offense and defense. Third on offense, third on defense. What were they going to be able to match up physically? Everyone was kind of pointing to the earlier games in the year where there were much tighter games. The big loss on Christmas against the Cavs, when the Warriors lost to the Cavs. So people were the biggest question was the defensive matchup between the two teams, right? That's our big question. How do these teams match up? And they didn't. They got blown out the water. We saw it. Now, they came close. They came close in Game 3. Kevin Durant's big 3. I mean, that changed the game. Maybe he misses it. Maybe we're looking at a different thing, but he didn't. And the point is that defensively, they really didn't have an answer for 4 of those games. The one game they did have an answer was the refs. That was their answer. That was their answer in Game 4. They got the refs to help them. And awesome, great job. Thank you, Adam Silver. Back to the question though. So the situation here, the reason I'm inclined to think that. Okay, so it just depends how you're looking at it. So Boston, I think on the top, tit for tat, boom, boom, bam, bing, I think Boston wins. Kyrie is one of, 8 to 10 players that can actually match up against the Warriors. When you have a situation to get that guy, you take that bet. Now, as far as Cleveland wins because they add some bench depth. Boston loses some bench depth. They have that Brooklyn pick. That's something that maybe could turn into something next year if LeBron really does leave, or it could be a bargaining chip to keep LeBron to stay, especially if the Brooklyn Nets are, in like the top 5 because it's unprotected. So, I mean, it's just theirs now. But, there is some evidence to point out that may not happen, that actually Brooklyn may be better than they have been in the last several years, but who knows? But if they're in that top 3, that's a huge bargaining chip for LeBron. But now, this is where I'm going to come in. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. Isaiah Thomas is a defensive liability. You pretty much have to hide him on defense. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't an opinion. In fact, defensively, they did better when he was out in the Eastern Conference last year. In the Eastern Conference playoffs during the Eastern Conference playoffs, when he was injured and wasn't playing, defensively, they were able to match up because of his size. And hey, I'm a little dude. I'm all for the little dudes. I mean, my dude, little dude. But because of his size, he's not that big. So he's a huge defensive liability. So this is how I see it. And this is what I think it means for the Warriors. And then this is going to come back to what you were saying. The Warriors were able to mop the floor the Cleveland mopped the floor with the Cleveland Cavaliers when the Cleveland Cavaliers were on defense. It's a lot of C sounds. Cleveland Cavaliers. It's like an acting voice lesson. The Warriors were able to mop up the floor when the Cleveland Cavaliers were on defense. Okay? Now you add Isaiah Thomas and you take Kyrie Irving out. He already really struggles to match up defensively with the team. So now you're going to tell me that now the Cavs have gone from 5 on defense to 4 on defense, and that's going to match up with the Golden State Warriors? That's going to match up with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and whoever they've got rotating at center? I mean, think about that. Like, you're now pitting 4 against 5. You guys couldn't beat them 5 on 5. And now you're going to do 4 on 5 on defense? Offensively, it's an even trade. They're going to be fine. But I really think that if we're looking at the long game for Cleveland, if we're looking at the long game and we're looking at going back for a 4th round, I still think they do. I still think they're the best team in the East. They go back for this 4th round. I just think the hole, the defensive hole that is created by having Isaiah Thomas out there on the starting lineup, I just don't know, man. I mean, unless like he's going to start doing like a Steph thing and he's going to be Mr. Steal the ball happy or Mr. Rebound happy. He's so little. That's a tough gig. But I just think that now they go from defensively, the Cavs go from 5 defensive players, which wasn't a whole lot. That's not saying a lot anyways, to 4 defensive players. I don't know, man. I think Boston wins on that scenario alone. I really do, because now defensively they match up better with teams. They do lose Jay Crowder. That's what you pointed out. He wasn't that hot last year, but he was hot the year before. But they lose Jay Crowder, but they're now able to match up defensively with teams. And if they can get, Brad Stevens is a really good coach. If they can get Kyrie to start playing defense again and start doing what he does, he matches up pretty well. Don't forget the 2016 finals. He played really good defense against Steph Curry. Probably the best he's ever played. So if you get Kyrie to do that, and then
the best for Kyrie,
Cleveland rolls in.
Nothing
yes,
right
the
home
best
about,
for
but it was good for Kyrie, which isn't saying a lot relative to other defenders at his position. But for Kyrie, it's obviously, it's a step up from what he normally does, which is basically ISO basketball is his game.
Yeah, I mean, he's like not, if there's evil Kobe Bryant, he's like good Kobe Bryant, I guess. But so I think that basically what I think the Cleveland Cavaliers have done, and you'll see it in the finals at the end of this year, is that they've completely handicapped themselves defensively, way more than before. What do you think? Who do you think wins? And how do you see it playing out? What do you think about what I said in terms of the defensive liability? Let's hear it, Ray.
Well, I think Cleveland loses. I think they win and they lose at the same time, because you're basically giving up, it's almost an even trade. You gave up one prolific scorer for another prolific scorer. And I know Isaiah Thomas averaged more points per game than Kyrie Irving did during the regular season. But at the same time, he's still not the dynamic scorer that Kyrie Irving is. Kyrie Irving's extremely fast. He's very quick off the ball. He's got probably the best dribble. Him and Steph Curry have the best dribbles in all of the association. I don't know if I would I'd probably say Kyrie and Steph are probably even in that regard, but Kyrie is much quicker than Steph Curry. At the same time, though, he is the best finisher at the rim at his position. The shots he made in the finals, despite being a 4-1 losing effort, I mean, the stuff that he makes, I don't know how he makes all of those ridiculous shots at the rim with defenders like Draymond Green and Klay Thompson in his face. How he does that off-balance crap that he does he's a freaking wizard at the rim. And that is something that Isaiah Thomas is not. Isaiah Thomas does have tremendous athleticism that allows him to finish really well at the rim, but not at the same level as Kyrie Irving. So I think that Kyrie Irving is definitely a leg up in that regard. Shooting-wise, Kyrie can shoot threes better than Isaiah Thomas. I mean, that's statistically proven. He's in the 40 range. Isaiah Thomas is in the 37-38% range. Field goal percentage, they're about the same at 46, so that's pretty much even. But defensively, like you pointed out, he's 5'9". He gets bumped around way more than Kyrie Irving does because he's just freaking small. I mean, he's closer to Spud Webb's height than he is to Kyrie Irving's height. And Spud Webb could dunk like Jordan. So Isaiah Thomas does not have that kind of dynamic in his game, but he is extremely athletic. He can pass the ball. I think he's a better passer than Kyrie Irving. These are both guys that like to hang on to the ball and dribble the ball for extended periods. So whether that's going to continue in Cleveland's case, it probably will, because Tyree thinks that offense is the best defense, and that clearly isn't a winning recipe, as we saw last year in the finals. But I think Boston wins because Boston gets a prolific scorer. They get a guy that knows Golden State and can play Golden State well, and anytime you have a guy that can do that, that's a good thing. So you take that bet, just like you said. I think that's a win too. And then on Cleveland's side, you get a guy that isn't proven in the playoffs, and it hasn't been shown to be very durable either. I understand he had a lot of emotional stuff going on, but that's separate. He had a hip problem. They say the hip's going to be ready this year, but we'll find out how that'll last through 82 games and including the postseason, because we know the Cavs are clearly going to make a run in that case. But I think Boston wins out here because they get Kyrie Irving, and here's the big kicker. Isaiah Thomas is 28. Kyrie Irving's 24. They still have they get a younger player who can be coached by one of the better defensive coaches in the association. I think Brad Stevens is a much better coach than Ty Lue, even though the accolades up to this point would argue differently. I think when it comes down to a 7-game match, I think Brad Stevens can out-chess Tyronn Lue, because Tyronn Lue has an easier job just coaching a bunch of all-stars that are pretty much coordinated by LeBron himself versus Ty Lue. I know it's not 100% foolproof, but he is a field general more so than a lot of coaches are to their starting rotations and backup rotations. Tyronn Lue has an easier job, just like Eric Spoelstra did when LeBron was over there with D. Wade and Chris Bosh. It was very similar in that regard, where you don't have to do as much because you have such good players that know how to work well together, that the machine runs on its own. There's a lot of autopilot involved, whereas Brad Stevens is very much the orchestrator in that offense. So if he can get Kyrie Irving to play defense and distribute and do the same amount of scoring that he does, because his only other complementary piece at this point is Al Horford and Gordon Hayward, who are not on the same level as the starting rotation in Cleveland with LeBron James. So clear. And then here's the other thing too, Rudy, let me tell you this. Listen to the point guard depth chart for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Who's backing up Isaiah Thomas? It's Derrick Rose. And after that, it's Jose Calderon. And then Kay Felder.
I know.
This is a terrible depth chart.
I know. You know what? And it's so funny you said that, because I was just I completely forgot during all this Kyrie trade business that Derrick Rose was on that team. Do you think
God.
the Warriors? Come on, okay, GoldCast Nation, hear us out. I know you're on our side.
Who plays even less defense than Isaiah Thomas?
Derrick Rose is a shell of his former self. Do they honestly believe that he is going to be able to match up with the bench of the Golden State Warriors? Derrick Rose? Give me a break. There's no way. You guys, like I said, everyone at GoldCast Nation, this is all of us unanimously right now. The Warriors are sitting up in their castle, and all of GoldCast Nation is surrounded that castle, and our tiny mini castles, our little mini castles with success and dynasties and rings and 7 appearances in the last 7 years, and we all unanimously go, and the clouds open and the thunder hits and the rain. It's all over Cleveland. I'm telling you, that's exactly where we're at right now.
So I know last year I said that I thought Boston had a good chance of dethroning the Cavaliers, and that clearly wasn't the case, as they kind of got manhandled, and Isaiah wasn't even 100% and didn't even play in that series. But I think this is the year where they really do have a legitimate chance, because now they have if there was any mole that they could add to that team to help the Celtics exploit the Cavs and get past them, it is Kyrie Irving, their best offensive player next to LeBron James. They just got their best offensive player who knows that team in and out, which isn't all that complicated. It's just pure offense. It's very similar to, similar philosophy to Mike D'Antoni, although a little bit, not quite as the same, but the same in fundamental principle, meaning that your offense is your best defense. That's what I mean when I make that comparison. The systems themselves are very different, but that's what I see right there. I mean, and then who everyone else is the same. J.R. Smith is your starting shooting guard. Klay Thompson clearly can top him, and then Iman Shumpert was a non-factor. Kyle Korver and Richard Jefferson remain the two best rotating players on this squad that complement LeBron James, although Kyle Korver can't play defense and can't shoot the three as well as he used to. Richard Jefferson's actually still pretty good off the bench. And then Jay Crowder now back to Kevin Love. That is the one compliment that I will give Cleveland, because Jay Crowder is a good player. He can shoot the three. He can shoot well from the field. He's going to give you double digits off the bench, and he's also a decent defender. So him coming out for Kevin Love pretty much allows them from the power forward position, allows them not to lose any step when Jay Crowder steps in. So they can continue at the same pace with Jay Crowder. So that's a good thing in that regard. Other than that, Tristan Thompson was a non-factor against Golden State. You have Eddie Tavares that backs him up. He was non-existent in the series. And then you have Ant Zizic, a guy from Croatia that we don't even know if he's going to even translate well into the NBA. So it's an unproven commodity there, real wild card there. Jay Crowder is the one real standout to me. Isaiah Thomas kind of gives them a step back in terms of defense, and Derrick Rose is a step even further than that. So to me, I don't think they didn't get better to beat Golden State, but they got better to they helped themselves remain relevant.
That's a great way to describe it. They helped themselves remain relevant. They basically slid sideways. But I think, like we've been saying, I think there's now more defensive holes and liabilities there that wasn't there before. And I really believe that they're opening themselves up. And just wait to, like we were saying, just wait when the Warriors are going back on offense, and now they have to hide Isaiah Thomas defensively. Just wait when Isaiah Thomas sits on the bench, and then Derrick Rose comes in, and he's going against Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala. Give me a break. This isn't even a competition.
No, it's not. And to be honest, if you look at NBA defensive ratings, the Golden State Warriors have 4 of their starting 5 rotation in the top 6 of defensive rating. That includes, in this order, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. So all 4 of your All-Stars in your starting 5 rotation are among the top 6 in defensive rating in the entire association. Conversely, Kyrie Irving and Isaiah Thomas are in the bottom 20 out of 100 players in the association. And Kyrie Irving is number 100 in the chart. There's literally hundreds of players in the chart, but obviously we're talking about mostly starting players, and Kyrie Irving falls to number 100 on that list.
Damn.
Yeah, so anyways, good luck next year, but I do believe Brad Stevens is going to get the best out of Kyrie, more so than Cleveland ever got, even though they won a championship with Kyrie, and Kyrie helped close out the Warriors, the year before. I still think they're going to get the...
I thought he should have got the MVP.
He's only 24. He's 24 years younger,
wow.
and in my opinion, he's a better player than Isaiah Thomas.
Wow. Yeah, like I said, I thought he should have got the MVP. I thought he deserved it, and I thought he earned it. I get politically why it went to LeBron. Now, okay, Ray, I want to ask you a couple fun questions. Here's some fun question time. Who do you want to see face the Warriors in the finals this year coming up? Do you want to see the Celtics or the Cavs? Who would you prefer?
Gosh, I don't know, because, either way, no matter which one of those teams shows up, if they were to lose, I'd be really happy, because it'd be Kyrie Irving's third loss to the Warriors, and if it swings the other way, it would be LeBron James' third loss against the Warriors. So either way, I'm kind of a happy camper. I'm not sure. If I was a betting man, I would kind of say it'd be nice to see Kyrie beat LeBron in the finals and then he beat LeBron in the conference finals, then show up to the finals and lose to the Warriors.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a good one. See, I'm really torn. Like you, I am torn. I'm leaning towards the Cavs. Remember when we had Jordan Chappelle, actor, writer here in Los Angeles. If you haven't had that episode, go back. We were talking about, Jordan Chappelle was on the show a little while back. So Jordan Chappelle said something great on that previous GoldCast episode. He said he wants to see LeBron go because he wants to see LeBron lose his 6th ring. And if he has the same amount of losses and rings that Jordan has, Michael Jordan, he could never be considered the best. Jordan won 6, you lost 6, and on that alone, you can never be the GOAT. Because I firmly, and I know you do too, we firmly stand in that no Michael. It's so good, right? That's so good.
Man, that's actually better.
Like
than
you
Kyrie.
just want to see that, right? Like we'll see both scenarios with the scenario you presented and the scenario I presented. They have one thing in common: LeBron losing. That's the thing that they have in common.
No matter what, LeBron loses. No matter what, it ends with either way. It ends with LeBron's tears.
Exactly. It ends with either LeBron's championship streak ending, which we all know is probably in a year now, this year or next. I don't think he goes next year, but I said that several years ago. I didn't think he was going to go again. Here we are. But either his streak ends or he matches the same amount of losses that Michael Jordan has won in the finals. His final losses, 6. Jordan's final win, 6. Oh, that's so good.
And if they lose again, Isaiah Thomas, they might lose Isaiah Thomas and LeBron James, because this is only a 1-year rental.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The Kyrie trade, you and I were both pretty much resigned to the fact of about 2 weeks ago that this wasn't going to happen. This wasn't that there wasn't going to be any trade. You and I were both pretty resigned to that, and then it occurred. So, which had shocked me. And for Isaiah Thomas, again, I just didn't see that coming. What a shock! Pretty nuts. Who has the better team today, right now, on paper? Who has the better team? Cleveland, Boston?
I'd probably say Cleveland has more depth, but a lot of them are like old veterans. And Brad Stevens, even though Boston gave up a lot of depth just to get Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, they still got 2 really good players that are still really young, and they're still in Gordon Hayward's case, he's just entering his prime. Kyrie Irving is in his prime and is still really young. So, I mean, you still have Al Horford at center. You have Jason Tatum backing up Gordon Hayward. That's not bad. Marcus Smart, he's a decent player. I don't know about Terry Rozier, but you did lose quite a few. I mean, Jay Crowder, I think that was a big loss off the bench, and I think Olynyk was the other guy. I thought he was pretty good too. He did really good in the playoffs too. He had like 30 points in one of the games. I forget which one. It's irrelevant. I don't watch Boston, but I think on paper Cleveland has a deeper team, even though they're old veterans. That in Derrick Rose's case is not even you're just not going to get a whole lot of you're not going to get a lot of quality minutes out of him. I think Iman Shumpert is more concerned with his hairdo than playing basketball. I think in the center position, you pretty much just got Tristan. God, you just give up the kid and play look. Just pick a style and just play ball. God, he's so annoying. And you have really, and here's the thing, you have two durability issues at your 1 and 2 spot for point guard. Isaiah Thomas is not, he's more durable than Derrick Rose, but he still has durability issues. And Derrick Rose, obviously, you know, his one of his knees is going to just explode one day. If he keeps playing the way he does. But yeah, you know, to reiterate again, I think Cleveland on paper is good, but I think Boston can beat them by the time they get to the playoffs, because by then they'll have polished what they want to get out of Kyrie, and they'll kind of have some really good momentum going into that series, assuming they're going to play against each other.
I agree. I think what this means for the Warriors, honestly, I think is it's an open lane. I think Isaiah Thomas really is such a huge defensive liability. You're now looking at 4-on-5. I think the lane is wide open. Warriors Nation, Dub Nation, you should be licking your chops. GoldCast Nation, every nation, San Francisco Nation, Bay Area Nation, Bay Area. You guys should definitely be licking your chops. This was awesome. Great trade, though. Really cool. The NBA has really become an all-year-round sport, and it's pretty exciting to see. This was a huge blockbuster trade, kind of happened in the middle of football preseason. I mean, just yanked us right out of the middle of our 49er stuff, and it's pretty cool. So, Ray, before any final thoughts? Final thoughts on the Kyrie Isaiah Thomas trade?
I think you nailed it. I think NBA is really doing a really good job of staying relevant, and they're starting to, you know, they've got a little bit of NFL in them in that regard. They're obviously not up to par with NFL, who's been on the year-round relevancy for years now. But the NBA certainly is starting to make strides towards, you know, becoming that kind of, I mean, their draft has the same kind of, you know, production hype behind it, marketing hype, and also tries to portray itself in the same manner as the NFL draft. It's obviously not on par with that, but it still is, you know, they're making huge strides to make. I personally don't care about the NBA draft because I think the lottery is a big joke. It's a huge joke.
I can't stand the lottery. It's super whack.
I think the major leagues and NBA should operate exactly like the NFL, just to keep it interesting.
Yeah, I think the problem. I think the issue.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, it's all right. I think we're getting off topic. We should end soon. But I think that the lottery is there to quote unquote deter tanking, which it doesn't at all. But
yeah, it doesn't. I mean, that baseball tanks, but baseball does not tank at the same rate as the NBA. The NBA, it's intentional. It's kind of out there in the open. Not only do the coaches know it, but the players know it and the fans know it. And MLB, you kind of know it. I mean, it's not. You can't always do that because baseball's a trickier sport because you play like more than double the amount of games. But I think I know that the Houston Astros did that before they became relevant on purpose, and that was kind of out in the open. But you don't necessarily hear that a whole lot in the MLB when it does happen. But it still doesn't happen at the same rate as the NBA. And anytime the NBA does it, it's like out there, like everybody is, you know, it's out there like social media, and that's just weird to me.
It is. So last thing, and then we got to go. But JT the Brick 95.7 The Game. If you're a devout GoldCast listener, which you should be, and I know you are, I trust you. That's why I like you. That's why we're talking now. You guys know that we have a certain disdain for some of the San Francisco sports journalists and reporters, mainly because none of them either have the drive or have the chops to make it on the national scene. So when we watch national coverage of sporting events, we love, and I mean that extremely sarcastically when I say the word love, we love seeing how San Francisco Bay Area just gets completely ignored or walked over half the time. 7 championship appearances, 7 years, all 3 major sports, 5 wins. I'm going to repeat this over and over and over. This is why you love the GoldCast, because I remind you of the biased opinion, because you are not here to hear about Dallas or Chicago or even Boston or Cleveland. You're here because you love San Francisco Bay Area sports. That's what we talk about. By the fans, for the fans. GoldCast Nation, holla. But anyways, JT the Brick is gone, Ray. Talk about that for a quick hot second before we go.
It's a blessing, just like Haberman and Middlecoff are gone, even though they're still doing their podcast elsewhere. JT the Brick, again, you just like Joe Fortenbaugh, you have an East Coast guy trying to represent Bay Area sports. No fucking thank you. So I'm glad he's gone, even though on his social media feed he said, we accomplished everything we set out to accomplish. If that was true, you would still have a job at 95.7 The Game and not Fox Sports. Which, who listens to Fox Sports podcasts? I don't know anybody that does. I certainly don't. But to each their own, I guess. Either way, he didn't do it. Now we have Matt Steinmetz and Daryl the Guru Johnson. Daryl the Guru Johnson is actually pretty good. He's from the Bay Area, so thank God for that. Steinmetz is kind of a pessimistic, cynical guy when it comes to his analysts, but whatever. He's more of a basketball guy than anything else, but Guru can kind of cover all the sports pretty well. Greg Papa's still the staple of that entire station. If he didn't
Greg
cover
Papa's
the Raiders,
best.
He is the best, man. He talks about all 3 sports like a pro does. He's like inside the NFL,
He's the
inside
best.
the NBA, and inside MLB, all wrapped into one. He's like inside all 3 sports. He is amazing, and I know he's pro Raiders because he covers the Raiders. But he still gives love when it is. I mean, he talked about C.J. Beathard this week, and he had some really glaring things to say about him. Some really called out a couple of the passes he made and said that they were just, picture perfect. And that was awesome to hear. But he's still the anchor of that entire network. He's awesome. If you guys don't listen, check him out. He's 12 to 3. He's amazing. He's not on the later hours because he still works for NBC. The sports network, so he goes there in the primetime hours, and Damon Bruce takes over there. But Damon Bruce is often interrupted by the A's schedule and the Warriors schedule, which is an amazing blessing. Thank God.
Do yourself a favor. Never listen to Damon Bruce. God, I've never heard a sports commentator be more of a hater for the teams. Oh God, I can't even stand him. Let's just move on. He is not True Blue, 49er faithful, Dub Nations, Giants. We don't really have a name for the Giants fan base. Giants fan base. He's not 49er faithful, Dub Nation.
Oh no, we are
Gigantes.
Giants. I think that's what it is, right? Los Gigantes.
Yeah,
but
it's not a name. It's a Los Gigantes. We are Gigantes. Nuestros grande. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways. But yeah, don't even bother. But I think Greg Papa, God, if he could be on the national scene, he'd be the best. But he is. But we do have him, and we are thankful. Even if he's obviously, he touchdown Raiders. That's his thing. Shout out to Old Man Davis.
Between 95.7 The Game and his TV gig and the announcing, I mean, he gets paid so well that I think he's kind of complacent where he's at and doesn't have any aspirations to go above that, although even though he would kick ass at the national level because he knows sports better than a lot of those national guys do.
Well, and he'd be that guy that always would protect us.
Yeah, even though he's from
he would
Buffalo,
protect us.
He talks like a Bay Area native does.
He does. He hella talks like us. Get it? All right, so here we go, Ray. Before we Ray, let them know before we leave where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Ray Solis. Instagram is at Ray Solis1. It's more or less for my work stuff, but I do chime in with other stuff, and I do check out other people's pages and sports and stuff like that too. Twitter is at Ray Solis. I do chime in on all kinds of a wide range of topics on Twitter, including sports, first and foremost, along with games and stuff like that. So if you ever want to drop a line, feel free to do that. And be sure to drop us a line on iTunes and YouTube under the same moniker of the GoldCast. Subscribe. Write those reviews, too, because those reviews bump us up in the charts, get us more noticeable. You know, if you like what you hear here, if you like the Bay Area fan perspective, then definitely give us some love. Let us know what you think, because we're always trying to improve and bring better content, better guests on for you guys, so you guys can, you know, enjoy hearing about your favorite teams every week.
There you go. Absolutely. Agreed. You can find me at Rudy Solis 3rd, Rudy Solis 3RD. Follow me back. I get a lot of love online, Instagram, Twitter. I love giving it back. Make sure to follow our Instagram page for lots of snippets of news and when our podcasts come out at the GoldCast. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom! We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.